Happy Wednesday.
Namaste to everyone.
Namaste and aloha.
And aloha.
Yeah.
So we are about to, this is our first time doing lives. This is called live streaming, right?
Yes.
Okay. So this is our first time that we are doing live streaming.
A live streaming interview. Oh, period.
Yeah, period.
Oh, yeah.
And we're doing an interview at that. So we're just going for it.
Oh, yeah.
We're just
Okay.
completely just like, throwing caution to the wind.
Yeah.
Ditch you, caution. We're going for it.
Word.
So I am Tezra.
And I'm Koa.
And we're the co-host of I Am Not That.
Liberating the Self from the Self. This is our podcast, our visual version of the podcast. We do put it on the audio platforms as well. But we're having a little bit of a head start before our guest arrives, just to introduce ourselves and do what we're going to do before he gets here. So, anything you want to do? Are we recapping while he's off? We want to do that?
Sure, you can recap.
Okay. So, our last podcast that we recorded for YouTube and for the audio versions was The Land of Make-Believe. And that is kind of sort of, I guess, how it sounds. We were really discussing and getting into how many illusions there are when it comes to this physical life that we live and this third dimension, and how we get so caught up into it and we can get a little lost in the illusions and really just not stay connected to that energetic consciousness that runs the show. So that was the overall gist of that, and how to just kind of be grounded and remind yourself, hey, I am wonderful, beautiful, limitless consciousness. And I don't have to always get so sucked into the world and all these societal things that we get caught up in.
Yeah, the dramas of the world, and even our own roles and labels that are placed on us, roles that we have to assume, in this world. The yoga culture calls us householders because we have to participate in the world, we have to show up in the world, we have to be in the world. And so a lot of roles come with that. We have to be a spouse, we have to be a mom, we have to be a daughter, or a manager, or an artist, or all of these different roles. And so as Cole was saying, the idea is to not get caught up in those, because those are the illusions, and not to identify with it, but to actually have enough space to where you can objectively see yourself, especially when there's drama taking place. And so what happens is we get so entrammelled with the drama that we become the drama, and that's where the suffering is. So with the Land of Make-Believe, you can objectively remove yourself, extricate yourself from the drama, and then look at it. And then you can see that, okay, this is what's going on right now, but this is not truly who I am.
Yes. And if I remember correctly, because it was a little while ago, we were also touching on, it's not about just trying to say all this stuff is an illusion and therefore I'm going to just be in this other realm. I'm going to try to be super duper spiritual and get all phony with it. That yes, we are participating in, life as we know it. We are participating, but without that aspect of just completely forgetting.
Yeah, we have a glass of wine,
Oh yeah, there's that. So yeah.
Participating.
Yeah. So if you have that, get that too.
Yeah, feel free.
Yeah.
So our interview is a little late because our guest of honor, he's actually in Vancouver. And so the timing, he was available at 6:30. So he was asking, would 9:30 be too late for you guys? And we were like, no.
Nope, not at all.
We'll see you at 9:30.
So yeah, we're good. I'll have one other thing to throw out there for all of you joining us live. And even if you're joining us after we record this, we are in New York City, so we are subject to that which, is New York. We have sirens.
Harlem, baby.
Yeah, we have things. We have people yelling stuff out sometimes. Whatever comes up may happen, so let's just flow with it.
Yes, we are in Harlem, USA. Very lively. Very,
Uh-oh, what's that? I think our guest has arrived.
Is that AJ? Okay, y'all.
Yes, it is.
Let's do this.
I think we're good.
All right.
That's what we're doing. We're on
But wait, we can't hear him.
We can't?
Wait, do I hit this?
I think so.
Add to the add stream. Yes.
Oh.
Hi.
All right.
Yeah.
How's it going, guys?
All right.
Welcome.
So, do I need to do anything for mine in order?
Don't think so. But you know what? I was trying to see. I thought that the double screen would come up, but I guess what it is.
That's cool.
Okay, perfect. And how do I share? I mean, if I want to share this stream to my audience or my group, is there a way to do that?
Do it right now. I don't know if you can do it right now because it's on our Zoom account.
Got it.
Yeah.
Okay.
That would be so freaking awesome if we could share it to your audience right now.
I know, because within Zoom, sometimes you have a share button and you can just drop the link.
Really?
And if there was, do you see a link on your end that you can share with me via chat, and I can just drop it in to?
Oh, I can share that. Yeah, I can share the link in the chat.
Exactly.
Well, is it the same one that I sent you? No.
I think that is the guest link.
Right.
I think.
Okay, so let me look. Okay, hold on.
Cool. And I'll share it as soon as you let me know inside our group so that people can join in.
Oh, that would be so awesome.
Yeah.
Because if not, it may be just us.
Okay.
Settings. Let me see. No,
it's not that.
So if I invite, let me see.
No, not that. Not more guests.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, we don't want more guests. Okay.
Have you done this before? Have you actually done this? What you're talking about? Can we do a nice quick tutorial before we get started?
Or me?
Have you ever...
I've never used this. It looks really good though. I mean, I've never used Restream. What I use is StreamYard or Zoom.
Oh.
Yeah.
But you know what we could do?
Yeah.
We could use yours.
You know what? The other thing is, is this streaming right now onto your page?
Yes.
So
but
then
nobody's looking right now, so it's fine.
I could just share it from your page, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So how do you do that?
What is the name of your page again?
Yogini Tez.
Yeah, let me just search for it. Let me just see.
Oh yeah. Genius. Yeah.
And then I can just share, from there. So this is from your personal page? Oh, I see it there. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. I see it now. It says Ancestral Amends Day Wednesday.
Yeah.
Is that the one? Okay. Perfect. Let me just quickly share it. And no one's watching at the moment, so it's fine, right? Let me.
Right.
Cool. Let's do this. Super excited. Okay. Let me post it into our group.
Okay. I hope that's not gonna. Oh, do you hear that?
I hear that. Yeah.
The AC?
Yeah. Why is that?
Oh.
I hear some kind of sound.
Yeah, that's AC. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So we'll
be
a tad warm and have better sound quality.
We'll have the glam squad ready to,
Okay. By the way, what is your name, sir?
I am Koa.
Koa. Nice to meet you, Koa.
Nice to meet you, AJ. Yeah.
Yes, AJ. Okay.
He's very familiar with you, AJ, because he listens to the podcast too.
Yes.
Oh, really? Thank you so much. And, it's so wonderful that you guys are also doing this podcast. I love the background that you have. Really nice and psychedelic in the back.
Yeah.
And so it's so wonderful to connect with both of you. I mean, I connect with Tez for our Zoom sessions. Yeah. But it's nice to connect with you as well. So.
Yeah,
thanks for having me.
Well, I'm joining the action tribe. I like it. I love it.
Yes.
So I want to welcome you, and I want to go ahead and get started and dive right in. And whoever joins us, the more the merrier. So welcome to AJ. AJ is a certified breathwork instructor, and he loves using ancient yoga breathing practices, pranayama, with rhythmical brainwave music and guided journeying to help people calm their mind, relax their nervous system, experience deep states of bliss, and ultimately discover their life's purpose. He is also a host and founder of the podcast My Seven Chakras, a podcast that has received over 4.3 million downloads in over 150 countries. After completing an MBA at the University of British Columbia, he realized that he didn't want to take the traditional route, but instead embark on an entrepreneurial journey based on helping modern people access ancient wisdom. Over the years, he has accumulated skills and experiences in breathwork, qigong, energy healing, and other practices that have transformed his life and those of others. And I will say that AJ was also my inspiration to really get the podcast up and going.
Really?
Yes.
That is amazing. And you're doing such an amazing job, so I highly commend you for that.
Yeah, thank you. Well, you were such a great role model to follow, so you're a great example. And also, he is my first breathwork instructor. So I have started doing breathwork, which is, guys, if you haven't done breathwork, I highly, highly recommend it. It is amazing. It's transformative. It just really brings you deeper, sinking into yourself more. It's amazing. And I had a wonderful session this past Sunday. It was really good.
Yeah, that's awesome. I have been invited to join my wife to do breathwork, to do yours. Because I have done, I guess, a version of breathwork, but I have not experienced how you do it. And so I would love to join her. And
we get it in.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, something amazing happens when you mix breath with some music as well as people, right? Conspire is a very popular term these days, but if you think about conspire, what it really means is con means together, and spirare means to breathe.
Yeah.
And so that's what our ancient elders did as well, right? Come together, sing together, breathe, heal together, and do stuff together, not alone, isolated in your own home, right? That's the goal.
Right.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So that was a wonderful session. So we want to start to delve into AJ's world here, and if you would just give us, a little snippet of your humble beginnings, like where your childhood started, and what led you to this type of work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, sure. So I was born and brought up in Mumbai, which is a city on the west of India. It's a coastal city. And I just recently got to know more about this. But since month 3 after I was born, I had a lot of wheezing, so respiratory condition, where I was not really able to breathe properly. And so, I have a lot of memories where it was a very traumatic situation where, the panic would strike at any point where I would feel this really difficulty in breathing, and I would gasp for air, and I was drugged most of the time because I had these medicines and these inhalers and stuff like that. So that was the hard part of my childhood. I was brought up by a beautiful household. So my mom is Christian, my dad is a Hindu, and so growing up, I was exposed to different ways of thinking and understanding how the universe operates, both through Christianity. So I would go to the church whenever my mom would go, and I would go to the temple as well. And so that sort of, in a way, opened up my mind, made me open to new ideas, new concepts, new ways of thinking and believing. And I think that was one of the seeds that laid it down in my life, made me want to start a podcast and go deeper into this healing practice and understanding what our ancient elders really did, and how, more importantly, we can use this in our own life to reduce stress, heal, and transform. So that was one of the seeds. I'd say a combination of having these challenges with breathing and also being open to various ways of connecting with the universe and the Tao.
So that's very interesting, because I was wondering that. I was like, I don't know if he was brought up in the yogic tradition or the Hindu tradition, which is kind of close. But then to find out that your mother was Christian and your father was Hindi, that is really interesting.
Yeah,
exactly.
Spiritual irony, having so much trouble breathing and just to be leading breath work.
Right. Isn't it? Yeah. I mean, I find that life comes a whole circle sometimes. It's funny that I had such a hard time breathing. I wish that they taught breathing in school, but unfortunately they didn't. I still remember there was this one doctor who once sat me down and taught me really how to breathe slowly and consciously. And I think that was one of the seeds as well that over the years allowed me to let go of wheezing. And thank God I don't have that condition right now. But it just got me thinking about how important and significant breath work is. When people think about breath work, they're like, yeah, sure, I breathe, man. That's normal. I don't need to think about it. But no, when you really consciously take control of your breathing, when you breathe in, it's inspirar in the Latin language. So you get inspiration, you get ideas, you get energy, and expirar means to breathe out. And in the form of breath work that we do, which draws from yoga, you breathe out and you hold your breath. And when you hold your breath, you have so many changes that your body does within, and sort of your inner healer takes over. And that's when the magic starts.
I want you to really dive deep into breath work a little later on in our interview.
Yeah.
But I think Mr. Koa here has a question for
Sure.
you.
Yeah, I have one or two for you. Well, so as Tez was saying about, how many people you've reached with your podcast, clearly you're a huge inspiration in the spiritual community. So I'm wondering, who was your inspiration before you kind of, I guess, blew up, so to speak, or got, before your listening base grew so large? Who was your inspiration when you were first starting? And who inspires you still today after the fact?
Right. That's such a wonderful question. I still remember when my first job was in retail, and I was working at Bose Corporation, so selling high-end equipment, and the products were great, but the job was, I had a lot of challenges because I was standing all the time, eating food at odd hours. And all of that really, that lifestyle took a toll on me because I was working on weekends as well, coming home really late. So it started to take a toll on me. And at that point, I discovered people like Brian Tracy, Tony Robbins, Les Brown. And I used to download these tracks on my phone. That was sort of just the start of the evolution of how much stuff you can store on your phone, right? And so on the way back from work, maybe at about 10:30, 11, I would switch up my MP3 player or my phone, and I would just listen to these amazing ideas from Tony Robbins and Les Brown. And that sort of really inspired me and got me thinking about the possibilities of life, that it's not about where you are right now, it's about where you're going to go. And sometimes we let our past hold us back, opportunities that we didn't take, mistakes that we made, habits that we couldn't get rid of, or people that betrayed us. And that sort of inspired me to look forward rather than look back. I still remember one of my favorite quotes by Les Brown was, "When life knocks you down, make sure you fall on your back, because if you can look up, you can get up." And so that lit a fire in me, and I was like, I want to learn more. And I started with Tony Robbins, and then I started listening to other people's podcasts. So I listened to this podcast by Tim Ferriss, John Lee Dumas, Pat Flynn, so a variety of people. And what I liked about Tim Ferriss was he was sort of like the human guinea pig. And so he had these goals, but he would not just believe them just by reading a book. He would experiment on them and try them and find it out for himself whether these worked or not. And if it worked, great. And if it didn't work, he would just consider it an experiment. And I think sometimes we really take our failures very personally. Like, we are a failure. No, it's just an experiment. If it didn't work out, then find out, what are the numbers telling you, or try to detach the results from who you are, because who am I? That's the journey that I'm still on, right? I don't know who am I.
Yeah. And I think that's the journey that spiritual people who are on the spiritual path, I think that's the journey to find out who we really are.
That's true.
Because like you said, when we have a failure, we tend to identify as that failure rather than seeing it as, oh, okay, so that was an interesting experiment that didn't really work out too well.
Yeah.
So that's wonderful. Being on the journey of finding out who we really are. Yeah. And now, when you were being introduced to all these different podcasts, was your breath work still like in your awareness, or were you so caught up in the world of in retail and your job and the day-to-day rote? Or was breathwork still part of that for you?
Great question. No, breathwork wasn't a part of my life at that point, at least in the way it is right now. The first time I came across energy was when I was very stressed out. I had a lot of anxiety, and I was looking for a way to heal. So I tried meditation, or at least the traditional form of meditation, which is silent contemplation. But it didn't come naturally to me because I had no experience prior to that. I know, being in India, you might expect I'm really good at meditation or I'm really good at yoga, but no. Uh, Deep down, I think Indians had a fascination for the West, and sometimes you tend to forget your own gifts, right, which are in your own country. And so, for whatever reason or the other, meditation did not come naturally to me. But I went on YouTube, and somehow I was fascinated by the chakras, but also I came across a chakra visualization. So I lay down on bed and I started focusing and visualizing on these different orbs of different colors and breathing in a certain way, just doing the guided meditation. And so within 10 minutes, I experienced a shift. That shift was like a very tangible experience because I knew that this was not my imagination. It was something real. I couldn't fathom what it was because it didn't make sense at all. It was so energetic and I could feel that shift all across my body. And so that is how, I started my spiritual practice, and slowly but surely I came across Qigong. I came across yoga, but I was not, all in, so to speak. I was doing it here and there, and it benefited me. But then when I started my podcast, I came across these guests who had these different practices. And, slowly but surely, with every episode, I became closer and closer to finding my own practice. And then somewhere down the line, I came across breathwork as well.
That's interesting because when I had embarked on my spiritual path a couple of years ago, but I only recently got into podcasts about like maybe a year and a half ago. And believe it or not, your podcast was the first one that drew me.
Yeah.
I was looking in the spiritual category and I was looking at different things and I was like, this is not really grabbing me. This is not. But when I saw My Seven Chakras, I was like, ooh, that looks good.
Right.
And it's such a great podcast because you have such a variety of different spiritual angles, that you keep it really fresh and even stretch our understanding or stretch our challenges of what we believe, you really push the envelope, and it's really great. It's really great.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons why maybe people like my podcast is because when I bring a guest on the show, I try to think, will I have a great conversation with these people or with this person, right? Can we be friends or can we have a coffee? I try to make it as real and authentic as possible because I just want to be me and they be them. Because I know that once we have a genuine conversation where we're laughing and having fun, then the audience can sense it. They can detect it. And that's what really gravitates them to wanting to listen to another episode. Sometimes I might do an and an and I might make a mistake and I might mispronounce something. But I think that's part of having a podcast is to have a genuine, authentic, real conversation. So
right, because we're not watching the news.
You're not watching the news.
Well, we're watching.
This is not mainstream.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'd like to just double back a little. I mean, I did write some things down. I was like, I have these things I'm going to ask, but you touching on that experience in meditation, I would like to double back on that.
Yeah.
Because I also I remember a first experience where it was very tangible, and it went from this thing that my parents drag me to, or I go to, or I see people, swaying and chanting and all this stuff. And I as a teenager, I was very skeptical. So I couldn't really grasp if it was like just something in your mind. You're just having this little trip inside your mind.
Very
until an actual experience where I took the advice of the guru that talked about how to focus all your different attentions on that divinity aspect. So I wasn't distracted. I had to put all my focuses on this, what he said. And all of a sudden I started feeling literal vibrations and things moving around. And that was my first experience where I said, oh, wait a minute, there's something to this shit. Like there's really it really does something besides it's just something in my head to imagine. So I say all that to say, maybe would you just kind of expound on that for people who have been trying to meditate, but they get distracted easily, or they think it's like, is this mind over matter, or is it even real? Like to maybe
Right.
draw them in even more so that there is actually more to it.
Absolutely. And I think, especially nowadays when we have access to social media and YouTube, the average audience is not stupid, right? We have access to so many different forms of media and we have access to information. And so when we're talking about meditation or talking about breath work, it's really important to build the narrative of why. Like, why are we doing this?
Mhm.
What's the research behind this? What's the science behind this? Why should I do this or why should I do that? And I think it's very relevant because once somebody knows the why, they're going to be like, let's do it. Because, you know, so one simple
Fired
example.
up.
Yeah, yeah. So one simple example, and this is something, this is probably the example that people really love and enjoy, is that, we've got this autonomic system, right, in our body that is responsible for a variety of functions like our heartbeat, our uh, uh, hormonal regulation, our endorphins, our chemicals, our blood pressure, and all these things. And for the most part, it's autonomic, or we've been told that it's, autonomic. And so, way back when, maybe like 20,000, 30,000 years back, when our elders were in the grasslands and they saw a lion or a tiger, that's when the autonomic system, the sympathetic nervous system would get activated, the fight or flight, because you can't be there and really analyze, is this lion a good natured lion or a bad natured lion? What's the motive behind this lion? Is this lion really going to eat me or not? You can't have those discussions. All the energy and has to go to the hands and legs, and you got to dart from there, right? And so, but after 30 minutes, after 40 minutes, hopefully, if you're still alive and away from that lion, then your system needs to switch off. You can't have stress all the while, right?
Right.
And so your parasympathetic nervous system takes over, which is your rest and digest, so that your energy can be focused on your on your healing and getting good quality sleep, as well as on your thinking functions, your cognitive functions, which is your processing, visioning, planning, and all that stuff. But and that used to happen back in the day, but right now, because that quote unquote lion is not a lion in front of us, that lion could be our boss or our schedules
Yeah.
or somebody that's bullying us at work or in school. That thing is always there, or maybe someone who's trolling our social media feeds, right?
Yeah.
And that stress is chronically in our lives. So now more than ever, in the midst of this crazy pandemic, we need a way to switch off that chronic stress response, switch on our rest and digest system. So how do we do that? Well, the ancient practices tell us that by just extending our exhales, you activate the vagus nerve, which is the longest nerve from the brainstem going all the way down, throat, connecting your chest, connecting your diaphragm, connecting your stomach. When you stimulate your vagus nerve, it sends a harmonizing signal all across your body, telling it to rest and digest. And when you hum, it amplifies that. So you deep breath in, ooh, and so the humming also really activates the rest and digest system. And this is not just me telling you. Firstly, there's loads of research and peer-reviewed studies that confirm this. And secondly, this takes 2 minutes, so you can try it out and you'll notice the difference. And going back to the why, it's so important to talk about the why before you suggest some meditation or breath work, right?
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, that's a great intro, a great segue into breath work.
Right.
So, breath work, I want you to talk about, first of all, how does it connect us to our spiritual power? Like, how does it empower us spiritually? So if you could just start to kind of expound on breath work and go a little deeper, more to your breath work.
Yeah. I mean, there are so many ways to answer this question in terms of how does it connect us to our spirit, right? If we are studying spirituality, we know that the only powerful moment that we have is right now, not the future, because that moment has not come yet, and not the past, because that moment is already gone. The only truth is right now. And when you breathe consciously, without jerking, without forcing, but really engaging your entire body, engaging your diaphragm and your stomach, you can't help but come to the present moment. And so if you're in the present moment, you feel that sense of peace of mind, that bliss, and that joy. And that's one way in which breathwork allows you to really come to the present moment, no matter what you're worried about that has happened in the past, or maybe you're anxious about something that might or might not happen in the future. So breathwork has this way of bringing us back to the present moment. Now, our ancient yogis, elders, sages, you name it, they did a lot of experimentation. And one of the reasons why I like yoga, tantra, ayurveda has a very scientific approach, in the sense that they were trying to use their bodies as the laboratory and try to figure out, how can I replicate the same result using the same techniques again and again. And so I see a lot of people trying to do meditation, right? And maybe they find it hard to really control the thoughts in their head, because we have 72,000 thoughts per day. And it's hard to really try to manage the thoughts, because the moment you think you've captured the thoughts, it's left you, or another thought has come by. And so if you look at the path of yoga, it's an eightfold path, right? It's Ashtanga. And in the 8 steps towards self-realization, meditation actually comes number 7 or number 6. So meditation, learning how to control your thoughts, is actually a pretty advanced practice by itself. And what they prescribed is, before you attempt to control your thoughts, why don't you try to control your body, which is the yoga asana? Why don't you try to control your breath, which is pranayama? Why don't you try to control your senses, right? And that kind of makes sense. It's easier to control your breath compared to controlling your thoughts. It's easier to control your body compared to controlling your thoughts. But when you control your body, you can control your mind. When you control your breath, you can control your mind. And so you're making your way step by step into becoming a more astute practitioner of yoga, but also ultimately working towards that samadhi, which is the realization that you and me, we're not different. We are one. We're together. We are part of this wonderful universe, this Tao. But we can't just talk about it. We have to experience it.
Right. Yeah, that is so awesome. Because that is what the biggest platform of our podcast is bringing people into the awareness of how powerful they are. And so when we were inviting you on and you so graciously accepted, I was like, breathwork would be a great thing to introduce to our audience members if they're not already aware of it, because that's just a tool that can bring you closer to the awareness of your spiritual self, and to be able to reach in your bag and grab that tool whenever is necessary.
Very true.
So if you would go through, I know Nadi Shodhana is the alternative nostril breathing. Can you just take us through that so that our audience can take away something, an actual breathing exercise?
Sure. I mean, I could talk a little bit about the alternative nostril breathing first, if you don't mind. And then we can, go into it. But alternative nostril breathing.
Is that also nasal breathing, or is that something different?
Well, it's kind of the same thing. Nasal breathing is just the idea that it's better to breathe through your nose because of so many benefits that one can accrue, as opposed to breathing from your mouth, which can be challenging because it leads to over-oxidization of your organs and can lead to cellular damage. But alternative nostril breathing is based on the idea that now research is also finding that throughout the day, both our nostrils are never fully open. You might notice one nostril is slightly blocked, the other one is slightly open. And this sort of, crisscrosses every 90 minutes. If you look at the yogic texts, you will notice that each nostril is responsible for a certain aspect of our being, because the right nostril is connected to the left brain, the left nostril is connected to the right brain. So the right nostril has to do with logic, analytics, and straightforward thinking. The left nostril connected to the right brain has to do with creativity, emotions, and that side of the way. And so by just ensuring that you're breathing through both nostrils, you are essentially balancing both hemispheres and both parts of your body, both the left and the right. And also you are accessing and becoming more and more ambidextrous. And that's amazing because growing up, we are told that we are either more left brain or we are more right brain. But we know through geniuses like Michelangelo and all those other Renaissance painters that true genius is unlocked when we become ambidextrous. And so, in a way, when we do this alternative nostril breathing, not only do we relax within a few minutes, but we're also balancing both hemispheres of our body and experiencing alignment in that sense. And so, one way to do this is to just place your middle finger on your third eye and then using the ring finger and the thumb to block either nostril. And the way you could do it is inhale from the left nostril, hold, close left nostril, exhale from the other. In once again, out the other. Fully in, close, out the other. In through the nose. Hold, let it go. And so, just doing this exercise for about a minute or so really has the effect of aligning, balancing. And sometimes, when we do these sessions, people are like, I got something in my nose. Let me clear my nose out. And that's a good thing, actually, because you're allowing all the debris, all the stuff that is collected in your nose over the day to really clear out, which comes back to the nasal breathing. And I can talk about that whenever you're ready. But that was the idea behind alternative nostril breathing.
Yeah, that was great. And I was just thinking, Tez, maybe you shouldn't have asked for that exercise in the middle of an interview, because now I feel like, oh my gosh,
yeah,
that little bit is so relaxing, and you can actually feel the balance. Can you feel it?
No, I definitely felt the relaxation, and I also could tell that the creative side was far more clogged and blocked than the logic side right now. I was like, oh, wait a minute, one is more clear than the other. Yeah. So what do you do? Like, this is that great that came up. What do you do if one really feels more clogged and you're trying to do this exercise where you're switching, but one is like, and the other one is flowing very well?
Yeah. Actually, there's this book by James Nestor called Breath, and he talks about loads of research that relates to this. And he suggests, they're doing more research now, but they're suggesting that people who have schizophrenia might have one nostril more active, which is their creative side, which is why they're so creative and they're literally seeing people or identities. And so there's research around that where they're encouraging them to breathe from the other nostril to become more logical, to become more analytical, to become more rational, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And so what to do if one nostril seems blocked? Well, holding your breath is a very powerful technique. When you hold your breath, then it has a way of really releasing your nostrils and your nasal cavity, allowing you to breathe once again. So holding your breath has numerous benefits, and this is just the tip of the iceberg, is that holding your breath allows you to, it sort of allows you to dilate your nasal passages, allowing you to breathe once again. But holding your breath after a few minutes of conscious breathing, what it does is it allows you to increase your energy, and that's something a lot of people are looking for, right? Mm-hmm. Especially at about 3:30 to 4:30ish, people feel drowsy, tired, fatigued.
Okay. Yeah.
And the idea behind this is just because you're breathing, it doesn't mean you're getting energy. Because when you breathe in, you take in the oxygen. The oxygen goes into your hemoglobin inside your blood. Now, the way energy is created is inside your cellular mitochondria. When the oxygen mixes with the glucose, there's a chemical reaction leading to the energy creation with carbon dioxide and water vapor. But the oxygen, when you breathe in, is actually going to your hemoglobin, and it binds to it. It sticks to it.
Okay.
It has to actually come out of the hemoglobin, has to enter the mitochondria. So how do you do that? Well, you could do that by breathing slowly and allowing the carbon dioxide to build up in your bloodstream. And when the carbon dioxide builds up, there's an effect called the Bohr's effect, where the oxygen ejects and goes into your mitochondria. Right? And so a lot of people, if you breathe out, you're letting out all the carbon dioxide, which is why when we do the breath work, we are breathing out as if we are breathing out through a straw, letting out the breath, but slowly, which allows the carbon dioxide to build up, allowing the oxygen to eject and go into your mitochondria for energy production.
Oh, wow.
So that's one way, but you can also hold your breath. So full inhale, letting go, and hold. And we try to extend our exhalations.
Okay, so
that's
the
the idea.
holding your breath is, you're saying it's most productive after the exhale, not holding your breath after the inhale necessarily. Is
There are different types of breath holds. One is when you fully exhale and you hold, that is called the Nishesh Rechak Kumbhak. But there's another version of holding your breath where we inhale and we hold as well. So both do have its benefits. But if your goal is to really let out that oxygen and experience the benefits of brief intermittent hypoxia, and I can talk to what that exactly means, that's when it's better to exhale and hold.
Okay.
Awesome. So yeah, let's go to the nasal breathing, and you can expound
Sure.
on that, and then we can go to the intermittent hypoxia, and then
Sure.
just do your thing.
Sure. This is so much fun, right? I mean, there's so much research and
It's so fascinating.
and science. It's very fascinating. And the beauty is that this is not for an elite performer or an athlete. This is for everyone, whoever's listening at home, whether you're a teacher or a nurse or you're a grandparent, everyone is going to benefit from it. And why nasal breathing? The thing is that I think from an evolution standpoint, our nose is designed for respiration and our mouth is designed for eating. But unfortunately, a lot of people use their mouth for breathing in. And they've done a lot of research and they've looked at skulls from 10,000 years back, and they've looked at skulls from, maybe 50 years back. And they've noticed that this habit of breathing in and out through the mouth has actually affected our entire jaws, our teeth as well, leading to crowding of teeth. And any dentist would be able to tell you, and they say, breathe in and out through your nose. Now, when you breathe in through your nose, what happens is multiple things. Firstly, you have these filters in your nose that really protect you from the pathogens and the bacteria and the virus that might be trying to enter your nose. So that's one line of defense. Secondly, when you're breathing in through your nose, it really warms up the air and prevents the air from going down your lungs and causing irritation. So it warms it up, allows it to get into the blood. The third thing is something that a lot of people don't know, which is when you breathe in through your nose, there's something called nasal nitric oxide that's created. Now, nasal nitric oxide is the first line of defense, or in this case, second line of defense against these harmful pathogens. Because the nitric oxide, as soon as the bacteria comes in contact, it is going to destroy it. And so that doesn't happen in the mouth. Nasal nitric oxide also allows your lungs to decrease in blood pressure, facilitating the diffusion of oxygen into the blood much more effectively. Nasal nitric oxide, when you breathe in through your nose, your oxygen actually goes to your cells for energy production, and the efficiency is 16 times as much as your mouth. So you feel like you're breathing in more oxygen, but the truth is when you're breathing in through your nose, you're getting even more oxygen into where it's actually needed for energy production. So that's why all of us should breathe in through our nose. And it's easy, right, during the day to consciously, close our mouth. But what happens at night? Which is why I've been taping my mouth at night. I literally put like a tape, and it's been helping me a lot. So
That's amazing. Now I'm going to leave you here.
Oh, so
I'm going to be right. Yeah, let me get a cord so we don't lose power. And this is amazing. So
cool.
So with that, with the taping of the mouth, okay, just a sidebar question. That makes me to think about sleep apnea.
Yeah.
A lot of people, they breathe through their mouth. So how would that affect that?
Oh, yeah. So breathing through the mouth is directly responsible for snoring.
Yeah.
Responsible for sleep apnea. Responsible for a lot of people, if you notice, they wake up at night, they're feeling very thirsty, right? They want to go to the washroom as well. So you would think, why would I wake up in the morning, like maybe 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning? I want water, which suggests that my body needs hydration, but at the same time, my body is letting go of water. It just doesn't quite make sense, right? Well, the thing is that when you breathe in through your mouth, what is happening firstly is that your sleep cycle is getting affected, which means you're not really getting good quality sleep. Right. So when you're not getting good quality sleep, what happens is, I think it's the pituitary, which is the secretor of many different types of hormones like endorphins and adrenaline and things like that. Now, one of the chemicals that it releases is called vasopressin. Now, vasopressin, the role of that chemical is the regulation of the water in the kidney. So when you're experiencing sleep apnea, you're not getting enough vasopressin being secreted. That affects the regulation of water from your kidney, which means that the kidney is releasing water, right? Because through urine or the need to do urine, but also because you're breathing in from your mouth, you're feeling dry, you're feeling parched, and so you need water. All of that, and that's just one of the things, right? But there are many more reasons why we need to really breathe in and out through the nose, especially at night. And for those who want to try it out, I would say don't put a duct tape. That's what I did on day one. Yeah, okay, because some people might do it, right? But what I do is I put a 3M surgical micropore tape lightly on my mouth, a small part that is subconsciously training my mind to breathe in and out through my nose. And so the quality of sleep I've noticed has improved.
Okay. So where you may not wake up in the middle of the night like you would typically would if, you were sleeping, normally, which the mouth may come open and.
Correct. Yeah. But I never had that issue. Like I would not wake up at night, but I know a few people do. I did notice that I do snore. So hopefully that is being sorted out.
Wonderful. Okay. So then let's talk about what did you call it? Where you suspend the breath, the intermittent.
Yeah. Brief intermittent hypoxia.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is one of the most fascinating topics in, I think, medical science right now, which is what is brief intermittent hypoxia, right? So growing up, we are told that oxygen is what we need. We need a lot of oxygen. But the truth is that the relationship between oxygen and carbon dioxide is just like yin and yang. You need the balance of both. Mm-hmm. And so the story goes that in 1930s, which is before World War II, in the erstwhile Soviet Union, there was these Russian scientists that had one major challenge, and they were trying to find a solution to it. And the challenge was that the Air Force pilots back in those days used to travel in an open cockpit, right? And so they would go up to 17,000 to 20,000 feet. And when they would go there, obviously at that height, the oxygen is very low. And so they were wondering, how do we get these people acclimatized to that low levels of oxygen? Because obviously it was affecting their health. And so they did a lot of research. And some of the solutions that they came up with was firstly taking them up the mountain and making them camp for days together so that they get used to that low level of oxygen. Number two, they would create these hypobaric chambers where the level of oxygen was actually low. And they also had these gas mixtures that they would give these pilots, all for the reason to get them used to that low level of oxygen at those high altitudes. Mm. Now, obviously, the Air Force pilots got used to it, but what they noticed was a slew of other big benefits. First thing they noted was that the body responds wonderfully when it notices that the level of oxygen is low. So the body is always trying to, keep us alive, right? And so the body overcompensates by increasing the red blood cells and the hemoglobin in your body when it notices that the oxygen is low for a short period of time. Now, the benefit for you and the athletes, especially those that go high up in the altitude and train at low levels of oxygen, when these athletes come to normal surface level of oxygen with an abundance of oxygen, they have a higher capacity to carry oxygen because they've got more red blood cells. They have a higher capacity for generating that energy on the track field, on the basketball court, that other athletes do not have. And so especially in the midst of the drug crackdown that's happening now, this is that advantage that they can have when they wear masks or they go high up and train in low levels of oxygen. And also, one other benefit is just because you're putting yourself in this positive stress situation, you're becoming more resilient, you're becoming stronger mentally, your brain is creating more neural pathways. And so, you're building endurance, you're building stamina, which is not just good for an athlete, but for everybody around the world that could benefit from more energy, more stamina, more endurance. So that is the condition of brief intermittent hypoxia, where for a short period of time you are lowering the level of oxygen, increasing the level of carbon dioxide, which leads to these benefits. And yoga tells us that you don't need to have these high, this expensive equipment. You can do it just by holding your breath for a short period of time.
That is so amazing.
Wonderful.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it's kind of like even when you were just talking about the difference between breathing into the nose versus the mouth.
Yeah.
It's just like it was kind of reminding me of how, I was jokingly thinking to myself in terms of divinity, like, wow, somebody really put a lot of thought into this. Like it works so amazingly. And it's usually us that start, using our, what if you want to call it, free will to start messing things up. But if things, flow naturally, they really have this just a complete perfection almost to it. Like the way that things work, like the way you said, the benefits of breathing through the nose, which is more by design, and your mouth is made for eating, but we just do whatever, and we reap the benefits of that, or the repercussions of that, I should say.
For sure.
That's really amazing, though. That is. So I look forward to the breath work.
My God.
Even more so, yeah, because I could hear her in the room. I'm doing other I hear these things. I'm like, what's she doing in there? But yeah, now I'm definitely
the rhythmic breathing and
it's amazing.
It's fascinating that people are able to see colors, people are able to notice sensations. It feels like collectively we are accessing a state or an intelligence that is not available to us in normal life. If you know what I mean, we're getting somewhere. I don't know what it is, but we're getting somewhere.
I definitely had that experience on Sunday, because I'm not one of these people that when I meditate, I see things and I see colors and I'm not one of those people, and I just had to come to know that and accept that. But Sunday, I had a very different breath work session to where when we were doing the the brief intermittent hypoxia. Yeah, I actually like the colors that came. It was so fun that I almost forgot that I was holding my breath. Like I literally just sat there and held my breath, because it really take me to a different altered state. It's wonderful.
Yeah. Now she says that, I'm not that one to experience this and that. And I think that everybody finds their own path, and there is no the experience to have. Like when you have this, you're on the way. It's not about that. But if you continue practicing different things enough, different techniques enough, experiences will blossom in your own way, in your own, so she keeps saying that, but I know that, she's just opening the door wider and wider, and it's just beautiful, to see us both just moving up the spiritual evolution ladder. So
I think as human beings we tend to compare, right? And if we tend to compare between one person and the other in terms of cars and houses, that extends to spirituality too.
Right.
Hey, I saw this multi-dimensional being. I'm better. Or, I get these nudges, or I see these synchronicities, 11-11. You feel like that person is more ascended, but that's not the truth. I think, the point of spirituality is, that's just a byproduct, right?
Yeah.
That's just a byproduct of spirituality. The truth is unconditional love.
Yeah.
That's the goal of spirituality, is to get to a point where you're able to radiate and shine love, not because you want it in return, but because that's who you are.
Yes. Oh, that's so beautiful.
Yes. Oh,
that's your nature of shining love, because you have an abundance of it. You don't need something. You love it, but you don't need it. That's just who you are.
Oh my God, that's such a AJ. That was such a beautiful wrap to this whole thing. You just wrapped that up so perfectly in pretty a package.
It's hard though. It's easy to say that.
After that, that was so perfect.
That's amazing.
Right.
Yeah, we do have
Beautiful,
to we have to practice some time management because we can just keep going on, and the conversation will just naturally go where it goes. But I definitely want
Absolutely.
to ask a couple of things before we wrap up. But did you want
For
to?
sure.
So I was going to say, AJ is such a pro that, again, you're such a role model, an example, because it's like you're such a pro in how you navigate your show and how you build out your show. That's just like
Thank you.
a great learning tool to not only does it spiritually feed me, but it's also a learning tool as a new podcaster. So
Yeah.
We're just getting started.
yeah.
So I did want to ask you about like you do this very often. You're always having a new show and you have guests and so perhaps it feeds you and you just love what you do. But do you ever get burnt out? Do you ever have like tomorrow's whatever Thursday tomorrow and I have this thing at 3 and I just don't even feel up to it? Like, do you ever get burnt out? Like, how do you stay passionate about the work even if you have those moments where you're ready just to take a break, or do you
That's such a good question. Yeah, that's such a good question. Yeah. I think as creators and individuals, we need to keep asking this question: why, right? Like, I'm doing this, but am I just doing it mindlessly, or am I getting something from it? Like, and that question is really powerful because that question is what I asked earlier this year, actually. And I asked myself, I'm doing all these podcasts, but it's not like I'm making 6 figures or 7 figures. I'm not, I don't have that mention. It's like, why am I doing this? Or, it's okay. I've crossed 4 million downloads, but I haven't crossed 10 million downloads, and I'm like, why am I doing this? Right. And I keep doing these interviews and episodes and, sometimes you get stuck in a rut and a routine. And I really did a lot of journaling and dug deep into my soul. And what I got to know was I don't have to do it. I get to do it. I don't really have to do anything. Like you and I, we don't have to do anything, but we get to do it. And why do we get to do it? Is because I draw healing and energy and inspiration from the conversations that I have. And the more genuine conversations I have, the more fulfilling it's going to be for me. And that sort of re-emphasized the importance of having, the right people on my show, not people who are New York Times bestsellers particularly.
Right.
I don't necessarily have those people. They're great and they're wonderful. I met some amazing people, but people who have love in their hearts and have something to share. And, there are different types of guests that I interview on my show. And some guests after the show, boom, done. That's it. We probably might not meet in the future. But there are some guests after the show, they'll be like, hey, AJ, how's it going, man? Where are you from? Like, which city are you from? Like, how long have you been doing this? How can I support you? Or, let's keep in touch. Let's collaborate. I love those kind of people because those people are wanting to build a relationship, right? They're not just here to promote their package or their coaching package or their book. They're here because, like I said, coming back, that's who they are. They shine love. And you can feel it, right? And I just crave for such conversations like you, like both of you. I can see the shine and the light in both of you. You're coming from a space of service and support, and you're just wanting to genuinely add value to people's lives in your community and those beyond. And ideally, I want to do an in-person conversation. And I've been talking to a couple of friends, setting up an amplifier, a table, and inviting people in Vancouver so it's not just going to be an interview. It's going to be a breathwork session. It's going to be dinner. It's going to be a workout. And you know what I mean? So it's going to be like a really good hangout session. It's not going to be just a conversation. That's my goal.
And speaking of collaborating, so what I want to do is I actually want to invite you. I want to see how we can connect you with my yoga school.
Yeah.
I think that we would love the breathwork session.
Yeah.
I think they would.
We spoke about it, if you remember. I think this was 6 months back or something?
Yeah.
Yeah. More than happy to do so. And the other thing is also in terms of going to your point about burnout, I love burnout. If it is coming through this practice, because I get to influence people's lives, this is my service. This is my seva.
Right.
And if, God forbid, I don't want to burn out. I'm mindful in that sense. But if I'm doing it for the right reasons, then so be it.
That's
Excellent.
wonderful. That's beautiful.
Excellent. Yeah.
So I have my fun question, because
Yeah.
people think that yogis and spiritual people, like, we're all, holy moly, and we
Yeah.
don't do anything worldly or whatever. So
Right.
my fun question is, what is your favorite curse word?
Oh, I mean, that's the curse word that is the most popular is fuck. You know? I think fuck has a way, and if somebody's children are watching, you can maybe edit this out. But when you say fuck, that has a way of releasing some energy and stress, right?
Yeah, it is. I like that one.
But yeah, I think that's the word that's my go-to word. I try to be mindful and respectful, but sometimes it just comes out.
Right. It's
Not-
sometimes
A lot of time.
It's always negative. Sometimes it's like, you want to go do this. Hey, you want to hang out, AJ? Fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah. Hey, look at this mountain. Fuck, that's amazing. It's so beautiful. Right?
That is a fun
wonderful.
question. Are we? I had a question because that I wanted to not necessarily end on, but I wanted to get in there before we ended. This relates.
By the way, I'm not on a timeline, so don't feel the need to hurry it up. I'm good. So
Ask away. So we like in our podcast, we really try to just connect this human experience, this societal, this everyday hustle and bustle experience, especially when it comes to the hood and different places where it doesn't always reach, so it's so popular. And racism comes up a lot, in the community, and different people feel affected by it. So I'm going to go to this paper and not act like I'd memorized it and I know it so well. So, because I want to make sure I ask it how I have it here. So I did notice, and we both have noticed that not many, especially well-known spiritual teachers directly discuss racism when they talk about their day-to-day practices and what you should do. So I wanted to say, what would you say to those who feel deeply affected by racism and they're not sure how a spiritual practice even helps because I don't have time for that. I mean, I'm too busy dealing with this. This is what's real out here. This is what us, and just that mentality. What do you say to those who feel that spirituality just they don't have time for, or it may not even help?
Right. That's such a deep question. I might tear up. But the other day, and this has not happened before, but I was coming back from a workshop, breathwork workshop with a friend of mine, and I was entering the bus. And on the way, I was waiting down the bus, and there was this person who I think he had mental illness or something, but when we went on the bus, he sat at the back of the bus and, just started passing xenophobic comments, like racist comments. And, Canada, for the most part, is really good. I've never had this issue before. But it did happen, and how do you deal with this? What do you do, right? The person's obviously mentally ill, and it's challenging. And, I feel bad for people around the world, in the USA, Canada, who are going through this, because it should not be, this should not be a conversation, right?
Right. Yeah.
It should not happen. And I think the reason why we do spirituality is we transcend beyond skin and color and body shape and all these things that shouldn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. We're beings of light. And part of us being spiritual is realizing that you are light and I am light. And that's what connects us. And we should be talking about nutrition and breathwork and yoga and all these things that can really remind us of who we truly are. And there are going to be, elements that are racist and xenophobic and lower vibrational beings. But, sometimes it's just good to send forgiveness and love. Maybe they've had a tough childhood. Maybe they were not exposed to the right media or the right people. for the first 7 years of our life, we are very impressionable, right? And so what happens during these first 7 years is so critical because it guides our way of living and our outlook. And so two things from this is, one is I'm trying to do my best if given an opportunity for children, because they really are the beacons of hope for the future. They're going to be the leaders of tomorrow, the politicians, the artists, and the engineers. And so if we can do something for the children, unfortunately, we see a lot of trafficking going on right now, a lot of crimes towards children. So they're the huge opportunity. We can do our best to, address racism with adults, but if we start with the kids, that's where we can make the biggest impact, and also do our part in terms of addressing racism, or having discussions where racism happens, maybe not obviously, but systematic racism is also a thing, right? So the more we have these conversations and involve everybody, right? Not just involve one denomination, one group, but everybody, white and black and brown, and whoever would like to be a part of this conversation, to bring them together. But also the other thing is not to have emotional reactions, if you know what I mean. So a lot of times, sometimes we have this cancel culture where somebody, just because they have expressed themselves, we try to cancel them and shut them down.
Yeah.
And I think dialogue and discussion is where people from all backgrounds come together, leave their emotions at home, open and engage in dialogue, so that we can come to a new understanding of what this challenge is and find a solution to it. So that is my two thoughts. But it just comes at such a right time where I had that experience, and I was with a female friend, and I didn't know what to do. Right? It was nighttime. It was 11:30, and what do you do about this?
Right.
But we got to do our part in preventing such things from happening in the future, and most importantly, having these discussions, which really I feel need to happen around the world.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I don't know if it landed well, but
No, that was beautifully said by a spiritual being. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I don't know if you can hear our dog whining in the background, so he's kind of bringing us to a close.
Yeah. I want a dog. I want to get a dog. Which dog do you have? What is it, like a mutt?
I have a blue nose.
Blue nose pit bull.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love pit bulls. I've seen all these videos on YouTube these days. One of the cutest dogs.
He's so yummy. He's so sweet. I just
Really
love him to death. So we are going to bring this beautiful chat to an end, but hopefully not the end of the conversation. We want to, continue to stay in touch. And just want to say that thank you for being such a great example and such a role model. And I just want to say to the people out there that AJ is so accessible and so approachable that he has 4.3 million downloads. But if you email him, he is going to email you back, not somebody in his camp. It's like he's very personable. He really is here to be of service. He's very selfless in that way. And it goes a long way because we really don't get that with people of your caliber who has a podcast, that has reached that level.
Right.
So to
Thank you.
be so personable with us just to show us that we're all people, we're all connected. No matter how many downloads we have or how many we don't have, that we're still all connected and I'm still accessible. So
absolutely.
So beautiful.
Very, very, very grateful. Thank you so much. This has been a real treat to have this discussion with you.
Absolutely. It's been my honor to have this wonderful, conscious discussion. Amazing questions, by the way. And I really appreciate you, having me on your show and the wonderful work that you're doing in starting this podcast and the vision that you have. I know that you have a vision, but of impact and changing, influencing society in a positive way.
Yeah. And so we're going to pick up the conversation of the collaboration of the breathwork with the yoga school really soon after this, probably tomorrow. I'll reach out to you and see how we can get that underway. But so thank you so much, AJ, and we will be in touch.
Thank you. Thank you.
Such a
Really
beautiful.
nice connecting with both of you.
you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.